Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Passport to Crime podcast. My name is Oakley, and before I begin today's episode, I want to remind our listeners that this podcast contains discussions of real-life criminal investigations, deaths and unresolved disappearances that some listeners may find distressing. Listener discretion is highly advised. Now, before I begin today's case, I want to provide an update on a case that struck a chord with many of you listeners. The case of Jay Slater, the 19-year-old apprentice bricklayer from Oswald Twistle, Lancashire, who vanished while on holiday in Tenerife in June 2024. After a harrowing search across rugged terrain, Jay's body was found in the Juan Lopez Ravine, a steep and unforgiving stretch of land near Masca village. Last week, the coroner concluded his inquest, ruling Jay's death as accidental. Toxicology reports revealed the presence of MDMA, cocaine, ketamine and alcohol substances that may have impaired his judgment were present. Witnesses described Jay as upbeat and energetic before he attempted a journey on foot, more than 14 hours long, without supplies or cell phone reception. The coroner emphasised there was no evidence of foul play or any external threat. Jay's death, he agreed, was tragic, but not suspicious. His family, who endured weeks of agony and speculation, now have a measure of closure. Our thoughts remain firmly with them at this time. Today's case is different. It reads like fiction, a crime novel left unfinished, a riddle wrapped in fear, secrets and symbolism. This is the story of Charles C. Morgan, a man whose death still defies reason. With all that being said, let's dive into today's case. This is episode 12 of the Passport to Crime podcast, hosted by me, Oakley. One man, 8 days, no explanation. Today, we're diving into the case of Charles C. Morgan. Charles Morgan was a respectable man, at least that's what people thought. A husband, a father of 4 daughters, an escrow agent in Tucson, Arizona, working with real estate documents and property transactions. The kind of career that inspires trust. But beneath the surface, Charles claimed to live a double life. According to him, he was working covertly for the US Treasury Department, tracing illicit money transfers, laundering operations, and links to organised crime. He didn't tell his colleagues. He barely told his wife. He was always looking over his shoulder. Now let's take a look at the disappearances. There was disappearance 1 on March 1977. It began in March. Charles dropped his daughters off at school and then he vanished. 3 days passed. When he returned, he was disoriented and shaken, wearing a plastic handcuff on one wrist and barely able to speak. Eventually, he managed to write notes to Ruth, his wife. He said he had been kidnapped, tortured and drugged with hallucinogen that was painted onto his throat. He warned her not to go to the police, as he said it would put the entire family at danger. Ruth urged him to see a doctor, at which he refused. He wore a bulletproof vest everywhere after that, even to bed. Then there's disappearance 2, in June 1977. 3 months later, he vanished again, and this time it would end extremely differently. Charles called his office from a payphone in downtown Tucson. He said he was running late, but sounded calm. That was the last time anyone ever heard his voice. 9 days passed, then Ruth received a call from a woman known only as Green Eyes. She quoted Ecclesiastes 12:1-8, a biblical passage about remembering mortality before life fades like dust. 2 days later, Charles' body was found in the desert. The crime scene? He had been shot in the back of the head with his own .357 Magnum. But the scene was strange. Charles wore a bulletproof vest and had a knife concealed in his belt. A $2 billion was pinned inside his underwear, covered in handwritten notes. 7 Spanish surnames, a map of towns near the Mexican border, biblical citations and Masonic symbols. Nearby lay a tooth wrapped in a handkerchief, believed to be his, a pair of sunglasses that didn't belong to him, and no fingerprints on the gun, but gunpowder residue on his left hand, though Charles was right-handed. The FBI reportedly ransacked his home in the hours after his death. Later, they denied ever investigating Charles Morgan. So what are the current theories around Charles C. Morgan's case? And more importantly, what actually happened? Was Charles Morgan a whistleblower targeted by organised crime? Was he caught in a crossfire of government operation gone wrong? Or gone rogue? Or was it something more psychological, the final unravelling of a man burdened by secrets? Journalist Don DeVerks spent years investigating the case and discovered alleged links to gold and platinum transactions worth billions, alleged mafia connections through the Bonanno family, the CIA money laundering operation. 1 year after Morgan's death, DeVerks received a tip warning that the truth could get him killed. Another man investigating Charles was gunned down. DeVerks was told it may have been meant for him. So much of this case reads like fiction, but every part of it is real. Let's take a look at some reflections. Charles Morgan may have died alone in a desert, but his story has never truly faded. His encrypted $2 billion, the silence of the agencies who should have been involved, the woman named Green Eyes, the hallucinogen, and the quote from Ecclesiastes. It's a story with more symbols than a clarity, and one that continues to haunt conspiracy theorists, investigators, and families. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of The Passport to Crime. If this story moved you, please help spread the word about our channel, and if you could help us out by clicking the like and subscribe button, it would be greatly appreciated, because behind every unsolved case is a family still waiting, a truth still buried, and a reason we keep telling these stories. Until then, stay curious, stay safe, and keep your passports at the ready for the unknown, and never stop asking questions. And if you liked today's episode of the Passport to Crime podcast, then please check us out on Instagram at the Passport to Crime podcast.